and welcome to the Virtual Speaker Success Summit. I'm your host, Erin Lomanjek, and I can't wait to introduce you to the next guest on this summit. I'm super excited to bring Bob Doyle to our stage. He is best known for his contributions to the film and the book, The Secret, as a law of attraction expert and coach. He has been teaching these principles through programs, live events, podcasts, live streaming, coaching, writing, and even virtual reality since 1998. He is driven by his passion for creative self-expression, and his work is heavily focused on helping people decide who they want to be and how they want to express themselves. Recently, Bob's attention has shifted from the metaphysical aspects of the law of attraction or reality creation process to more of a grounded and biological look at what controls our experiences, our brain. Bob believes that the understanding of how our brain is processing our experiences of reality empowers even law of attraction skeptics to see results with creating their lives by design instead of by default. In addition to his work in the personal transformation, Bob has also been the voiceover artist since 1985 and is the host of The Bob Doyle Show, where Bob showcases his other outlets of creativity, including music, computer animation, virtual reality, AI, and so much more. This guy's got such a plethora of knowledge. I can't wait for us to dig in. Bob, thank you and welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Erin. I appreciate being here.
So I'm sure at 5 years old, you didn't wake up and say, I can't wait to be a part of the law of attraction and become an expert and a coach. So tell us a little bit, how did you get to where you are today?
First, how do you know I didn't do that?
Well, did you?
No. So you're psychic too. No, my whole life, the first thing I knew I wanted to do was the thing that I always knew I wanted to do, and that was to go into broadcasting. My dad was in broadcasting. He was a TV weatherman. He did voiceover. He did audio production, and that to me was just the dream, and that's all I ever wanted to do. You know, he hid in a booth away from people. This was great. And so, that's what I studied. That's what I worked my whole career towards. At age 14, I'm writing scripts and I'm practicing reading, getting the Southern drawl out of my Georgia voice, and just setting myself up for broadcasting. And I did that. I did about 7 years of radio, and it was not because I was in a major market and still fairly early in my career. By the time I'd moved to Atlanta from, Athens, Georgia, where I, could do whatever I wanted on the radio. Now I had to do what they told me, and it just was not the creative outlet that I was looking for. And what I know about me, and you even said in the introduction, what really drives me is creative self-expression. And that's, if I'm not doing that, I feel like I'm dying. And that was, and I knew that since my career takes up so much of my day, I want to love what I'm doing and I want it to be an expression of my creativity. But since radio, the only thing I'd ever thought was going to do it was not it. I was like, oh, now what? So I jumped around from all kinds of careers, even multi-level marketing, and I had a web design company. I just did various things. I tried to start an audio production company. All of my skill sets that I trained and, was developing, I was trying to do something with as an entrepreneur, because I learned pretty early that I was a terrible employee, probably because I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I didn't want anybody telling me to do it differently. So that's my wiring. And I knew that early. So, but nothing was working. And so that's what kind of since everything that I knew to do wasn't working tactically, that should have worked on paper, I was like, all right, well, maybe there's something else going on. And then that's what kind of got me looking down the metaphysical path. And to make that story short, I went down a whole lot of avenues that led me to sort of the quantum physics of reality creation, the energy of our thoughts, and the law of attraction and wealth consciousness. And somewhere along the line, my lights came on. And it all just made sense. And I understood why I was where I was. I understood why I failed. I understood what I needed to do to change it. So I had enough of an understanding of what the law of attraction was to start, practicing some of it in my own life. And as soon as I started seeing any kind of results that I could say, well, this was definitely a result of something I'm doing differently, I started kind of compiling, the information that had helped me, and then my own insights. And I put together the very first version of what was my Wealth Beyond Reason program, where I was more just sort of the facilitator of the information. I wasn't claiming to be an expert or anything like that. But a very important part of my story is that soon after that, I did decide to claim a new level of being. And since that's what, we're talking about here, it's about who do you really want to be? And I made a decision at that time that who I was going to be in this conversation of the law of attraction was someone who could easily and effectively communicate these principles to as many willing, open minds as possible. So when I claimed that that's who I was and not who I was going to be or aspiring to be, or maybe one day I'll be as good as or as famous as, or fame had nothing to do with it. I just wanted to succeed. You know, I had such a tumultuous financial life. I just wanted it to happen, but I knew that I had to claim a more powerful version of myself if I was going to do that based on everything I learned. And the moment as I really owned that and saw that for myself, that's when so much else changed. And then the things that we would refer to as downloads started. It was just like information pouring in, and that little program I put together turned into this monster of law of attraction knowledge, tons of interviews, and just like, oh, so much. But that program is what Rhonda Byrne found when she was doing her search about the law of attraction 3 years after that. So I think that you notice when you watch The Secret, there's lots of different types of voices in there. And, we got very spiritual people, we have medical people, and so on. And I'm just a guy, I'm just like this guy. I've in the industry, if you even want to call it that, 3 years. I was not a Jack Canfield, a Bob Proctor, a Marcy Shaw. Nobody knew who I was, and I was a broadcaster who had stumbled into this thing. Right. And I think there was something about that voice that she wanted in there. Like, hey, just a normal person can do this. And of course, I talk about it in as grounded a way as I can. And back then, and for the past 20 years, basically, I've been talking about the law of attraction from as scientific a point of view as science will allow, and trying to get people to understand all of that. So that's how I ended up in the law of attraction conversation.
That's funny because I know, like, I've grown up with the law of attraction in my life. I've been doing so many of the same principles, the same beliefs. My mom and dad were waking up new age back when I was a child in conservative North Idaho, where no one talked about this kind of stuff. So, but I love the part that you're actually making it applicable, implementationable. Like, that's the thing that I think is the thing that gets people hung up. Is it's like, great, this is this great theory and it's all out there, but how do I work with it and implement it in my life? And it seems like you've really taken that into breaking it down so that it's actually like tangible things that you could do, that you're in the action part of law of attraction, that you are doing something instead of just saying, if I just sit here and think about it, it's going to come. Right?
Yes. Really, I am all but not even talking about the law of attraction these days when I'm actually teaching people and trying to help facilitate transformation. And the reason is because I've been doing it 20 years and I've seen how people approach the law of attraction, especially if they'd never heard of it. You see, you were brought up in it. It's totally different for you. For adults, or who are just experiencing this for the first time, and all of their wiring is like, this is voodoo, this is, there's so much to work through. They get enthusiastic and they're excited, but there's all this belief that they have to believe in vibration. They got to believe in the energy stuff. We can talk about it all day and they can go, yes, that makes sense, but there's so much contrary wiring in there. And they tend to use the law of attraction to try to influence the outside world, right? To get something to come to me, or to get that person to whatever, as opposed to working on themselves. And if there's one thing I can assure every single person watching this, is that if you want the law of attraction to work, it is an inside job. Stop trying to shoot rays out at the universe, trying to get it to do its bidding. The universe is responding to who you are being. And by the way, if you are being who you truly want to be, with the impact you want to have, the confidence, the so on and so forth, if you've really created that person, you don't need to give one moment thought to the law of attraction, because it's going to work for you automatically. So this is why I have basically stopped talking about it, because trying to get people to get it is wasting years of their life that they could be transforming. And so once I started shifting from that to, where does reality creation really take place? Like, for every single person, when is reality created? Oh, when you think about it, when you project it, when you do the vision board. No, it happens in the moment you give that moment meaning. Am I enjoying this? Is this good, bad? Was this easy, hard? It's all your brain connecting dots based on all of your programming, if you will, to create the experience of that moment. The meaning that you give the moment is what creates your reality. And what creates that meaning is your wiring. And that's been happening your whole life, mostly unconsciously. So if you want, and who you're being is a result of that wiring. So the results that you're getting in the world are, of course, the result of who you're being, whether you're talking about the law of attraction and energy or vibration or not. Your being in the world, and the world is responding to you and you're getting results. So if you don't like the results you're getting, guess what? Stop trying to change the world, change who you're being so that you become the most empowered version of you, the person who will easily attract that reality that you want. It's much easier. It's much more direct. And all you have to do is work on your own brain, something you have complete control over, instead of trying to get this vibration to work and all of that. It's just a learning process, and you learn to be who you want to be, just like you learned anything.
Well, I think this is so awesome. Like, I love thinking about the brain. And so, being that I went to school to be a therapist, I've studied the brain a lot. And one of the things is your brain always wants to be right. Like you're saying, you have a situation. Let's just even say this water cup comes to me and I'm like, okay, water, it's safe. I drink it. I've never had any negative experiences with it. Like, it's in this plastic cup, whatever, right? But then because your brain's just like, what is this? It's filing systems. So it's like, let's make this the easiest filing system. So it takes in an information. But if you've drank water that was contaminated, if you didn't ever have water, like if you're, if in the country you live in, there's no water and it's like such a, commodity and all these things, there's going to be a different process in those brains than it would be in yours. That this is it's just water, right? But your brain is, it's focused on, let's make this the easiest and most efficient process to making a decision, right, and coming up with, is this safe? Is this not safe? And what am I going to experience based on all the experiences that I've ever had? There are neurosynapses created on that just for water, right?
Yeah.
So how does that affect people's lives?
And it's such a complex network. I mean, the associations we have, it's really interesting. We were doing a coaching session this morning and someone was talking about how they just, sometimes you just get thrown into a bad mood and you don't know why. Do you know that it could be the color of something that someone wore that you caught out of the corner of your eye, and your brain made some kind of crazy connection based on the wiring, some experience you had, and it just triggered some emotional chemical response. And now your body's flooded with chemicals. You have no idea why all of a sudden you're angry or whatever. But what happens is most people will go, I'm just angry, and they get into it and they put too much attention on that negative feeling, and then they just create more of the chemistry. There's so much biology here. You create that chemistry and then you're just in it. So, the skill set that I'm trying to teach everybody, the number one skill set, is to become present in the moment when you go into autopilot mode. We spend so much time in upset. We spend so much time wasted just indulging in the upset and our reaction, rather than going, hey, wait a minute. I'm just making meaning out of this right now. My brain is connecting dots and I am unconsciously allowing my body to take over and give me this bad feeling. I'm going to stop this process consciously because I know that this is not the truth. This is just my wiring. And that's basically what you were saying. There's no truth about the water, right? It's just, we all are processing, and boy, we see it today, that all people can look at the same events, if you will, have completely different meanings. And one person will be convinced that that person is completely wrong, an idiot, total lunatic, and the other way around. Who's right? Neither one. It's just this. So, and this got programmed unintentionally for the most part. So all I'm saying is we can take over. We can be intentional about learning, just like if we're going to go learn a new language or we're going to learn how to do a new program, we get intentional about learning. All we're going to do now is we're going to learn how to be a different version of ourselves. So what do? We give ourselves new information, just like when we're learning. And then there's the discomfort because we're creating new neural pathways. And it's like, oh, this is hard or this is challenging or whatever. But when we're learning to walk or when we're learning to talk, we don't quit because it's difficult, because the result is non-negotiable. With transformation, it's all kind of negotiable for us. It's like, well, unless we make it non-negotiable. When we make our future, who we want to be, our transformation non-negotiable, meaning you will not quit until you stop, then it changes everything. Because now there's not mistakes, there's not failure, there's just feedback that you're going to change, you're going to act on and say, thank you for that. Now I know how to adjust, because I'm not stopping till I get there. And that happens when you right now in this moment become that person, and not wait for the external to make you that person.
I think that is so powerful, because we all think it's all out here.
Mm-hmm.
So many people think it's all out here. And when you get a result, like you said, it's just feedback. I've always said feedback is always just feedback, and if you want to, examine something, you do it based on results. If you don't like the results you got, then go and change the mechanism, right? If I say, okay, I'm going to put this summit out there and no one buys it. Okay, that was feedback. either the messaging's off, the audience is off, my deliveries, there's something off in that. Or I could go, oh, I'm so unworthy. Why would I ever do this? Oh, did you think you are? Oh my God, this is stupid. This is another thing that just failed for me, right?
Yes.
Instead of, and if you wanted, change the mechanism, change the thing that got there. Maybe it was the marketing, like we said. Maybe you got the wrong audience. Maybe you got the wrong message. But it's just to change it. It's like, okay, I don't like that feedback. I want another feedback. Let's try something else. Oh, I didn't like that feedback either. Oh, but I like this. And this is really working for me. Let's go down that road.
Yeah. Yes. One of the things, because this is, we're talking to some, a lot of speakers right now. One of the things that I'm seeing, because I've been in the speaking industry or surrounded by speakers for, a couple of decades, and I see all levels of speaker, right? And it's like, well, what makes a speaker like good? Like where you watch and you're engaged and you just enjoy it, you're getting something from it, you feel connected, you're just all in. Is it how many years they've been doing it? Is it how eloquent they are? It's none of that. And what I see with so many speakers is as they're learning, they learn all these techniques for speaking, they learn all these mechanisms for telling stories or whatever it is, but they're acting this part that they haven't really fully sold themselves on yet. Like they haven't become that person yet. They haven't become it. So they're acting their way into it. They're faking it till they make it or whatever it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, what I'm saying is that you can accelerate that process of getting to that level of, and it comes down to so much confidence of just owning who you are, because a confident person can get up on stage and talk very softly or make very few movements, but you'll still get it. There's something, there's that charisma, there's that whatever, like I am in because they are in. But if you're up there and you're just trying to play big and you're just, like all the false confidence, I mean, come on, everybody reads that. It's not, and I will say this, there are some audiences that will buy right into that and buy all your stuff. That's fine. That's never been the kind of speaker I want to be. I really have always just wanted to connect to the people who connect to me because I'm who I am, saying what I truly believe in the way that I say it. And if I get off track, if I forget what I'm saying, that doesn't bother me because I'm really being authentic and I know exactly where I'm going and I'm going to bring them there. And I don't speak outside of my, what I really know to be true, because the moment I try to do that, it's going to be picked up upon. So if there's a gap between the person that you're wanting to be, then let's assess what those things are. What is it? A certain level of confidence? Is it that person doesn't talk as much, that person doesn't over explain, or that person doesn't, whatever it is. What is that person, that future version of myself? What are those traits that I have not yet incorporated in my everyday? And could I start incorporating them? And what would it look like if I did? And the beautiful part of our brains is that we get to imagine all that ahead of time. And I'm sure that, a lot of these speakers do the whole visualization and see themselves on stage and having the confidence. And that's great. That's what we want. But it's like, let's take it to a whole new level, not just how did you do on stage? Who were you being on stage? Who are you on stage? And how congruent is it with who you are off stage? Is your life congruent with your message? Are you truly being who you really are? Because when you do that, that's when you're going to be, I believe the most effective for the people that you really, truly want to help and can help by being who you uniquely are.
Well, and that's where that magnetism comes. Like you're saying, charisma, magnetism. Yeah. It's like, they're like, oh my God, you're me. You're speaking my language. You're speaking to me. There'll be nobody else in the room. You're speaking to me. And that's what you want your audience to feel, like you're really speaking to them. Each one of them that resonates with you, that those are the people you're like divinely appointed to serve and be here for. And so I really love that. But what I love is that you're talking about creative self-expression. So tell us a little bit more about this creative self-expression that you're working on and always, helping people to really get that, because I also believe that's something really great to bring to stage.
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. And part of my story was that after The Secret, and then I'm suddenly visible to all these people and I'm getting asked to speak, because I never had to do that before, really. I didn't get into this to be a speaker. I got into it because I was interested in the law of attraction. And I wanted to help people, but I loved doing it digitally and hiding. So the speaking thing was all like, oh, how am I gonna, but I ended up loving it, but I realized that I had sort of pigeonholed myself and thought, well, people are expecting Bob Doyle from The Secret. And I'd gotten maybe a comment or two from somebody that made me think I can't be Bob Doyle, like the silly guy that uses all the humor and stuff. Cause I don't know, people have a different expectation. Nobody, that was me. And so there were a couple of years there after The Secret got really big and I was very, way more visible, that I was really struggling with my own sort of identity crisis. Who am I going to be in this? Because it wasn't that fun. If you look back at some of the marketing, it's still out there from like 2010, 2011, whatever it was that I was talking about. I was just so serious, like barely smiled. And it was just like, this is so intense. Like I look at it and it's cringy. It's cringy, but then along comes Periscope and all this other live streaming technology that allowed me to sort of like broadcast again, right? And that was very different than just putting up videos. Very different. Now I felt like I was on the radio or I was on TV or whatever. And then the technology came where I could do all these crazy special effects and just really use every creative idea I had and implement it either into accentuating my message about all of this or just having fun in the Bob Doyle Show, which has nothing to do with this. It's just, the thing is that my point here is that if you do not express yourself creatively, whether it's professionally or not, you will feel like you're dying because you basically are. That's part of who you're here to be, that passion, that creativity, so I play the ukulele. It is like if I could do nothing, but all day, I would just do that. But, I don't do that for money. So you got to pay the bill. So I do, I follow all these other passions that I have as well. But if I didn't play the ukulele like 2 hours a day, I'd go nuts. But I don't do it to make money. I don't do it to be famous. I don't do it to make records. I don't do it to even perform. I do it because I've got to express that part of me. And if I can bring it on stage, which I've done a couple of times, then I absolutely will. Anything I can do to accentuate my message or make it more fun or engaging or set me apart from other people, because that's the thing again about speakers is when you start to see the formulas, with the approach that you see, oh, they went to that training. Mm-hmm. I know because this is them. I see 20 of these people right now and I'm lost. I'm gone immediately. I can't engage with it because I'm so I'm just burnt out on it. But if do something different, tell me something that really gets my attention in my heart and my emotion, then you've got me, as long as you're authentic all the way through. So, I don't even know how we got there, but here we are.
Oh, but it's so true because like when I teach speaking too, I'm like, okay, the very beginning I do, and it's only to create a tribe and to create safety in the room, which is I always ask a question. How many of you in here have a message you want to create a movement with? And I say, look around, and everyone looks around and everyone's hands up. And they're like, oh, I'm not alone all of a sudden. Oh, I belong here. Mm-hmm. And that is a secret tip that I always teach, because then now you're the leader because you led them through something. They're all feeling connected because if they were all strangers and you were the first person up on stage, now they all feel like they're in the right room with the right tribe, with the right people. That has nothing to do with your message. That has nothing to do. You could then start talking about dog walking if you wanted. But really, truly, it's how you show up in your authentic way, the way that you feel the best, because the person you see on stage, me, the person you see on this camera, and the person you see with my children, they're the same always. I am authentically myself, unapologetic, 24/7 of my life. That's why I have the success I have, because I've literally taken those things and like, this is what I want more. Yes, more, please. No more of that. Yes, more, please. I'm over here. But you're really truly being it.
Yes. And the other thing you want to keep in mind, of course, as a speaker, because speaking is a platform for a message that you want to deliver to people for, I'm sure, a long time. Your career is not about going to do a 90-minute talk and then that's it, right? You want these people to know you and like you and trust you and engage with you for a lifetime, right? I mean, I'm guessing if you're here to start a movement, so you want to be somebody you can sustain. You want to be somebody you can like. That you like being, that is truly authentic, so that you can always just be you, and you're always going to attract the right people. Because if you're with people for life and you've put up a thing to get them, well, now you've always got to put up that thing. And what if you don't like the people who are attracted to that thing? It's like,
that's some feedback.
Yeah, it's like, why am I attracting these people? Oh, because I'm being like this. Right.
Well, one of the things that I love the most is we didn't even know that we both have this in common, but it's the future self, right? Mm-hmm. So in your boundless living challenge and the things that you're teaching is really the things that we've all talked about on this summit is about your future self. bringing that and actually living into more of that. Like you're saying, if these are the things that you like, these are the, maybe you're looking at other speakers and like, I really like how they're just themselves. I like how they bring their guitar on stage, or I like this. And you're like, ooh, I could use those things because that's me. That's my own creative self-expression.
Yep.
And so you start going, okay, but if I do that more and more in my future, I'm going to be more of that. So talk to us about the boundless living that you teach with people and kind of your mentorship that you have.
Sure. Awesome. As the headphones fall right out of my ear. So rewiring is a commitment, right? We got wired how we are because our whole entire lifetime, we just let all this information in. So it's pretty in there. So that's why transformation in general is a failure for most people. They take on programs, they go to things, they get very excited, even if it's immersions where they're in it for like 6-7 days. Well, 6-7 days is not a rewiring effort. It can start the process, but most of the research says 45 days of the same thing every day, not like when you feel like it, not like 30 minutes in the evening, but new conversations all the time will create new neural pathways, and you will literally be somebody else. And if you don't believe you can change who you're being, just think about who you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and go, how was I thinking like that? That's wiring. And it dramatically changes the lens through which you see the world. So, what we provide in the challenge is daily support, daily activities. Like I said at the beginning, what I'm trying to teach people is the very first skill is becoming aware when they're in autopilot mode. And people are getting it very quickly. And that's the beginning of the whole thing. That's the beginning of freedom. When you can say, oh, I got a choice right now. Now, whether they take it or not, that's, it just depends on where they are in the process, because it can be challenging at first. But, in the challenge, we actually have a point system. They get rewards. So we're talking to the brain. The brain loves dopamine. They love to check things off. They love all the accolades, the rewards, all of that. And so the program is filled with it so that they will do it every day. It also the brain likes to know what to do every day. So it knows every day. So like I said, I 20 years of teaching law of attraction and all the techniques and all the visualization. And it's so hit or miss based on a person's belief system or how much resistance they have or how focused they are on, did I get the vibration thing right? As opposed to, look, neuroplasticity is it's not debatable. There's nothing to discuss like with the law of attraction. All they need to know is their brain can change. Once they get that, once they understand that, which should take about 20 seconds when they realize that every time they learn new information, their brain is changing. Then they realize that, so you mean all I have to do is just send it new information, it will learn different things. Yes. So what's the information that we want to send it? Let's decide that. So part of the challenge is, who is this person you want to be? Not what do you want to attract? How much money? Not yet. You want to decide that from that person. So we define who you want to be and define that gap and what can you do every day to move into action that's more alignment with that. And, it is so amazingly effective when people are not caught up. Now, I do send, we do provide a lot of tools and techniques that are associated with the work that I've done with the law of attraction, things like EFT and Sedona method and other release techniques that help you kind of move through the emotional stuff that happens when that wiring is triggered to make the process smooth. But it's mostly about the accountability, because there's a group dynamic, which is very important. You're always in a group every single day. So basically, we're giving the brain everything it needs to change. And that's why it has been so effective. And the other thing that I think that sets up the transformation process for success with people in the challenge, or even just taking it on, whatever they do, is knowing their starting point. So 20 years, I have realized that there are various types of people who seem to approach personal transformation. Now, this is my own thing. This is not like, a standard personality test. I call it the transformation personality type quiz that you could take to determine what yours is, because when you know how you're currently wired, specifically when it comes to your own personal transformation, then you can recognize it, which is the first step. Understanding, oh, I'm in my wiring right now. This is not my truth. This is just my wiring. So we provide this quiz that takes like a minute, but is dead on accurate. And I promise you take it, you're going to say, that's me. And then we tell you, here's some things to look out for when you're taking on transformation. Likely, this is when you might quit. This is when you might slow down. This is a thought process that you can get around by doing this. And then, of course, then we offer up, and here's where we can absolutely make sure you do this. And this is the challenge.
I think awareness, like people don't realize how much awareness you have to have on a daily basis to really do this work, because everything. Like you said, you could see something in the corner of your eye and it like triggered you to something. And all of a sudden, all these thoughts start happening. And you're like, wait, where did that even come from? Right. But I love even watching the way that I make people really present to their programs is, and we all know money is a huge trigger for people. So I take $100 bill and I say, who in here will trade me this $100 bill for a dollar bill? And I said, all I want you to do is also pay attention to what are you thinking? What's happening for you? And people are like, well, yeah, I will. Okay. And then they're like trying to figure out where their dollar is. And, oh, I don't have a dollar, or, oh, I have change, or like all this stuff starts to go in your head. So then what ends up happening is if no one comes up and trades me a dollar bill for a $100 bill, so there's some things that happen. Either they don't get up from their seat because they're afraid, oh, what's the catch? Why would somebody give me $99?
Right.
I don't want to look like a fool. What if I get up there and it's a big joke? What if, all these things, it's too good to be true. Or they'll sit and be like, here's my dollar, not come up and get it, but just sit, come and get it from me. I don't want to take a bigger risk than this, And so I always say, what were you thinking? And they're like, oh man, what was the catch? And where else is that showing up for you? If you're sitting in your seat and you didn't get up, how often do you just think, okay, law of attraction, I just expect it to come. I'm thinking about it. I'm here. Come give it to me, universe. Come on. No, do you have to go open the door to get what you're asking for? There's action involved, right?
Yeah.
So all of these things can be triggered so fast and you have no idea because like you said, autopilot. It just kicks on and all it starts running. And then you go, oh, wow, I didn't realize I had all those thoughts about money, right?
Yes, and it is so automatic. I mean, it's so automatic that even if you make a commitment to catching yourself, you'll probably miss 80% of your upsets because they seem so automatic. Oh, well, this doesn't apply. This is just the truth. I'm supposed to be upset now. No, I'm saying every single upset is an interpretation. Every single one. No matter how much of the world would agree with you that you should be upset about it, it's still an interpretation. And you can still make a choice. And you can certainly choose how long you're going to be upset about it because we don't have these negative emotions to dwell on them. We have them to correct. There's nothing, we are supposed to have them. They're there for a reason. They keep us on track. They keep us moving in the right direction. So this whole avoiding negative emotion is not it. It's not, you use them as feedback. It's not a bad thing unless you get stuck in them. And we get stuck in them when we get stuck in a cycle, a thought cycle. Thoughts just, we make meaning and we keep making it meaning and cycle. And then we beat ourselves up for doing that. And it just goes down this path. So we need tools and processes to interrupt that cycle. And then we need something that we've already thought of to replace them with. Because if we don't have the vision, if we don't have a clarity about who we want to be, all we're thinking is, I don't like this, but you got nothing else to go for. You've got no vision to work for. Your mind isn't going to go anywhere except spinning on the crap. So it's very important that you take the time to figure out, who do you want to be right up front?
Yeah. And you got to know who you are. So I know that you talk about this personality quiz, that's one of the things you get to do right away is go take the quiz, find out about yourself, find out what those things are, how you are programmed, give yourself some awareness, like we just said, so you start going, oh yeah, that really is me. Cause we feel like that the minute we feel like we take some kind of assessment tool and we're like, oh, this really does feel like me. Oh, it makes sense of what I feel and how I think and how I process and how I do things. So I love that. So make sure you get the test and then tell everybody else where they can find more information about you, anywhere like social media and all of that stuff.
So, well, meetbobdoyle.com is the Bob Doyle hub for all your Bob Doyle needs. It'll take you to all the places because I've got Instagram, I got Facebook, I got YouTube, I got it all out there. I'm doing you can learn about my coaching and speaking and teaching. It's a website with my name on it. And that's probably the best place to go. And you can also link to the quiz there too.
Wow, that's like innovative.
How about that? Meet Bob Doyle. Meet Bob Doyle. Because some realtor in Arizona already had bobdoyle.com a million years ago. How do you like that?
Wow. I know. It's just
I can't even imagine how many times I'm not that guy. He must have to do that.
He's probably like, please stop. No, but I also think the cool part is Meet Bob Doyle is actually like an invitation. So it's actually pretty cool. I like it.
I like it too.
Like, come and meet me. Mm-hmm. Well, I love all this stuff and we're talking about our future self. So I'd love to ask you the question I've asked everybody that's on here. And it's something I have them ask themselves. But when I talk about my future self, ELJ, she's got a $40 million company, sat under the trees with Oprah, New York Times bestselling author. She's done all the things, right? everything that I dream of being and having. And so when I need to borrow confidence, I even step into her, but also when I need advice. And so I'm going to ask you, what if I was to bring your future self, Bob, here today, what would he tell you?
It's so easy. Stay present. Because the Bob Doyle that was struggling before this rewire, because look, I'm passionate about the rewiring conversation because it worked miracles on me. I took this on for myself a couple of years ago, and everything is so different. It's ridiculous. But it all starts with being present and stop going off and telling your story from the past or talking about the fear of the thing in the future. I would go off. I justified so much negative thinking, because of the evidence or whatever. But every time I did that, I was leaving the present moment, which is perfectly fine, just how it is. And I have choices in this moment for what I'm going to do next, unless I'm making those decisions based on being in the past, being upset in the past, the truth I have about the past. I'm creating a whole new truth. But if I keep telling this story, guess what? It's not going to get rewired, a new truth. So it's staying present, not in the past, and not worried so much. But if you want a future pace, that's great. But worrying about things in the future is not going to serve you either. So I know that was my number one thing that I needed to work on the most, is just to stay present.
Oh, yeah. Because you'll find where those programs are, those triggers that come up. You're like, oh, do I like that about myself? Do I not? So if I don't, let's do, this is just feedback. Let me work on taking that one, that neural pathway and creating a new one so that I don't have to go back to that anymore.
Every trigger is a revisit to the past. Every single one is going back in time.
Yeah.
And so with the tools that, there are tools that we provide, that it's not like you're going to have amnesia and forget the thing, but you don't have to have the charge. You don't have to have the wiring does not have to take you out of the game. You can observe the past without having to relive it every time.
I love that. And there's so many people that need to come from that place, especially with the way that the world is right now and all the picking sides and duality and all that three-dimensional stuff. This is truly where you can take and actually make a difference by changing who you are, not who they are and how they're perceived, but how you are and how you respond. I love this. Well, thank you so much for being here on this summit. I really appreciate it. Make sure you go to meet Bob Doyle and get some more of his stuff. Take this personality quiz. Find out more about what's, getting in your way. What are the awarenesses that you need to bring out, and some tools and resources to do that. I think this has been awesome. Thank you, Bob, so much for not only showing up and being here, but for who you be in the world.
Thank you, Erin. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for attending the session, and we'll see you on the next session, and we'll see you on stage.